Yolanda Holder, known as the Walking Diva. I'm here with Wagoneer Entertainment. I'm doing the 3,100-mile race, and I want you to know one thing. Anything is possible if you never give up. Try it.
Hello everyone, I am here today with Yolanda Holder, who's here to run the she's going to walk, as you'll find out, the 3,100-mile race. She is in town from Cali, and thank you for joining us today. I'm glad to have you here.
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Excited to be here.
So, what's going through your mind right now? The race is tomorrow, a few hours actually. What are you thinking?
3,100 miles is what I'm thinking. That's a long way, but I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I have all these emotions going through my head right now.
3,100 miles, 52 days?
52 straight days. And to reach 3,100 miles, we have to do 60 miles a day to reach the 3,100.
What kind of miles are you looking at?
I'm looking at trying to do minimum for myself 100K, which is 62 miles. And if all goes well, I hope to average about 70 a day, anywhere from 65 to 70 a day. But we'll see.
Was there a time in the past where you were looking to do something like this, or did it ever cross your mind? Or
no, well, I started doing multiple day racing in 2014. I'm a power walker, and a friend of mine is a race walker, and he told me, Yolanda, this is your moment. You need to go to Alaska to do this 6-day race. And I actually thought he was just absolutely crazy. I said, 6 days, the most I've ever done is 100-miler, and on my best time is 31 hours. So you saying you want me to walk for 6 days nonstop? And he said, yes.
Wow.
And so I did. I went, and it was the the Ultra Marathon World and American Championship. And I did 400 miles in 6 days. I placed 3rd woman and 10th overall in the world.
You know, it's funny because I looked at some of your stats, and it seems like the more you do it, the better you're getting. It looks like you're getting to the prime of your season, I would say, in terms of racing.
I agree with you, Jay. The longer I'm out there, the more endurance I have. I can stay out there longer. I can put out more miles. And don't ask me where it comes from. I'm 59 years old. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because going back to the 3,100, that's a pretty significant number if you're going to be the oldest.
I will be the oldest woman to ever do the race. And I'm honored. I'm representing women. I'm representing walkers. Because we walkers are in a runner's world, and we're treated second class. And I want to prove that walkers can do what runners can do, and we're pretty good at it.
I have to agree with you. The first time that I met you, that's what caught my eye. I was actually at the 6-day, 10-day Sri Chinmoy race last year, 2016, and then I saw you were I think the only one that was walking, but it didn't look like you were walking. You were just Speedy Gonzalez past everyone, and it was interesting to see the energy and the enthusiasm and just the smile every day while you were out there.
I enjoy walking. I'm known as the Walking Diva because I like to wear skirts and dresses and my designer sunglasses and my fedoras. You don't have to wait until you drop 10 or 15 pounds to wear your workout gear. So I figure like this: why not smile, have fun, and enjoy it? You paid for it.
Why not?
Why not?
And I don't think that's the only important thing about this race, talking about how you were the oldest, but you are, among other things, explain to us some of the other accolades that you're getting for being a part of this race.
Yeah, when I did the 10-day race, that was my first time doing a 10-day race, and the race director said, let's see how you perform, and if you do well, because I had just heard about the 3,100, and I had asked him if I could do the 3,100, and he said, well, do the 10-day, and let's see how things go. And so I came out. He also told me that I could break the women's American record, and he said that was 525 miles. So I ended up doing 622, broke the American record. Also, I made the 1000K club. You do
Amazing.
620. I barely made the 622. Well, I had plenty of time afterwards, but what happened was after doing 6 days, sometimes you can't add, you can't think.
Oh,
you know.
wow.
And so when I realized that I thought I needed to do 620 to make the club, but it was 622, and I had like 2.5 hours left and only 5 miles to do. And a friend of mine, he was there, and it was it's hilarious now, but it was funny at the time. And I said, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I said, I just can't do it. I have all these miles. And he goes, well, you have 2.5 hours to get it done. And I said, no. It turned out that I only did 4 or 5 more miles and did the 622, and I still had 1.5 hours left over.
Amazing.
So,
and in addition to that, I think in 2015 you placed first in 2 6-day races, and in 2016 you placed first in another 6-day race.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but yeah, I podium on all the races that I do, and it starts off. Many people have asked me how to power walk. I've had a lot of elites, and actually Bud, who won the 10-day race this year, he had asked me last year, how do you do that? Show me how to power walk. And a lot of the runners realize now that you do, if you're doing multiple days, at one point you need to walk, but you don't want to be too slow, so there is a technique to power walking. And if you power walk, you can continue to still have a great pace and then get your miles in and then once you get your breath or your miles in and get some rest, you can still go right back out there and walk. But they still have an advantage over me, because runners, when they're tired, they can either power walk or just slow it down. But walkers, we either have to sit down or slow our speed down. But yeah, I've been putting walking on the map. I don't know where it comes from, but the more I do the multiple days, the faster I get, the better I'm at it. And I think we just get better with time.
Just like good wine, right? That's what they
Like
say. So I want to say congratulations also, because you are also going to be the first Black African American, right, woman, male or female, for the 3100, and you're going to be the only American this year.
And I'm an only American this year. It's to me, it's just a huge honor to have where I'm the oldest woman to do it, the first African American male or female, the first walker, pure walker. I don't run or jog, just totally walking. So I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for people to realize that you can do this. You can do a marathon. A marathon will lead to multiple days, or just doing your first ultra, your first 50K. And that's what I'm really trying to hope to promote, is that no matter what age you are, it's never too late to get physical, to get healthy and fit. And the easiest way to start is by walking. You have 2 legs, you have to walk. But I mean, you train to be a power walker the same way you train as a runner, but it will lead to, if you like running, it'll lead to running. If you used to, in your younger years, bike, it'll lead you to get back on your bike. If you were a swimmer, it'll get you back in the pool to just do some laps. My very first ultra marathon, I didn't know it was an ultra. Actually, it was a marathon, and it was up in the mountains, up in Napa, up in the Bay Area. And all I was looking at was, it said marathon, Napa Marathon, Napa Trail Marathon. And when I got there, the start, it headed straight up the hill. And I looked at the gentleman next to me and I said, "Are we going up there?" And he said, "Yes." And I finished it, but I mean, we were climbing over trees that were down. We had to walk on rocks on the stream to get across. I got lost. I was crying. but it was something magical about
Mhm.
it doing a trail that I ended up, after I finished, I said, I'll never do this again. The next weekend, I was right back on the trail.
Wow.
And so the point of that is, too, if you like hiking, you like nature, you know, just do a 10K.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll get you right back into what it was that you liked doing growing up, being physical. And then you'll be amazed what your body can do.
Mm-hmm. That was your very first ultra marathon?
That was my first marathon that was a trail,
Mhm.
you know. And then my first ultra was on a trail also. And an ultra is a 50K or more, which is 3,100 miles. And I've done plenty of those. And but since I had done the trail marathon, I was, you know, I hadn't done 31 miles, but it kind of introduced me to the ultras. And from the ultras, I have to admit they are a little addicting,
Mm-hmm.
because you're out in the wilderness and you have the trees, and it's just beautiful. It's
Mhm.
just really
Peaceful.
serene and very peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What got you into doing that very first race, or what made you even start on the journey that led you here today?
It's so weird that you never know what path you're getting ready to take. I had done my very first marathon was the Portland Marathon, because they were walker friendly, and that was in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I was at the age of 40.
Mm-hmm.
I was 40, and I did my first, and then between the 40 and 50 for the next 10 years, I had only done 12 marathons and quite a few halves and 10 5Ks. And for my 50th birthday, I wanted to do something different. So I said, you know what, why don't you just do something just totally off the wall? And I said, okay, I'm going to do 50 marathons in 50 weeks. Well, that didn't happen. I ended up doing 65 in 52 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was in 2008, 2009. I did 77 marathons. Then I got in contact with Guinness, and I said, well, is there any person that's done the most marathons in a calendar year? And he came back and he said it was a lady over in Italy. She did 100 in 2002. So I set out to break her record with 106. And from that, 2012, I ended up breaking my own record with
120. How do you do that? How do you break your own record and go that far?
Well, what happened in 2010, when I broke that record, that's when I realized that the walkers weren't really welcome. They were treated differently in the world. So, you know, being a walker in a runner's world wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, my son's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend now, Shannon, I was in the room and was like really depressed, and she said, Miss Holder, wear your crown. You did something that no one in this, you're the second woman and the first American to ever do 100 marathon, over 100 in the calendar year. Wear your crown. Be proud. And so I said, you know what, you're right. And so I set out to break my own record, but in that 120, I had graduated to 100 milers. So I did 3 100 milers with Guinness. Anything over 26.2 is considered one marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So even the ultras was considered one. So I think I did about 50 Ks, 3 50 milers, or 10, and then, but the main thing was the 3 100 milers that I did that was considered as one, and that was my way of saying, back at you, in your face, let's see you do this. So I had a little badass attitude.
And you did, so you have, I think, over 20 100 milers, right, at this point?
At this point, I have 21 100 milers. I have a total of marathon ultras, 535.
Amazing.
And so in 2014 is when my friend Bob just talked me into doing that was my first in Alaska, the 6-day race. And it's led to now to the 3,100.
What was your inspiration to even do this from the beginning, though, before you even entered your first race? What was the process of getting into shape for that, or even in the mindset of, I want to give this a shot?
With the 3,100? Well, what I did when I found out that I had gotten into the race, that was January 16th, and it was the same day that my sister died. My sister Cassandra had passed away, and she was very supportive of all my races and very proud of me. And so a lady named Renee, she lives in Australia, she contacted me and said, you know, now that you're in the 3100, I would love to train you. So she has been doing training me, which she's a mindset coach, and so I already have the determination and the physically I could do it, but she believes, and I believe too, that if you're not mentally ready, then the body's going to crash. And so not only did we were doing a lot of mind exercises and just really believing that I could do it. Last year I did my very first bikini fitness competition.
Mm-hmm.
Never ever wore a bikini, but I wanted to try something different again. And so what I did was my trainer, I used the way he trained me for that competition along with the nutrition, and I used that to train for the 3100. And along with my coach Renee, she's also an Olympic coach, and she coaches track and field. So I learned to do, she trained me the same way she would do a sprinter. So I did a lot of speed work. She used to kept saying, okay, I want you to run and I want you to do, you know, repeats. And I go, well, let's change that word to walk. And so it took her a while to say, I want you to power walk. And so so we train just the same way sprinters would train. So I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to pan out starting tomorrow.
So it takes a different level of training than it takes not only the physical aspect of preparing your body, but you're saying it also takes a mental.
Very much.
And then also, I would guess that it takes some sort of emotional training as well, because when you push yourself to that limit, of course, you start to get, like you were saying, it's a little bit difficult to keep track of counting, or, you know, maybe you get caught up in the emotion of it, and you can feel sad or happy or depressed or what have you, depending on, I guess, the day that you're having.
Yes. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was in St. Paul, Minnesota, to do a 24-hour race, and it didn't go well. What happened was we kept checking the weather, but it ended up being over 90 degrees, humid, and just extremely hot, and I ended up getting heat exhaustion. And I used that as a bad day during the 52. And so what happened was I did very, very well. I kept trying to control my pace, control it, and around 10 o'clock it was already over 90 degrees. And so by mile 30 I had heat exhaustion, and I said, okay, how are you going to handle this? You're in New York, it's day 28, what are you going to do? So I flipped my mind to say, well, all you need to do, besides this is a 24-hour race and you need to do 100, you only need to do 60. You got this. You can do this. So I just pushed myself between mile 30 and 40. And when I got to mile 40, I ended up throwing up and I took like a 45-minute break. And then I got my composure, and then I struggled to the last 20. However, I did 60 miles in 15 and a half hours. So I just thought, okay, you're in New York, you have 18 hours, because we start at 6 a.m. and you have until midnight.
Right.
Yeah. So I was proud of myself. I said, this was a bad day in New York, you know, you got your 60 in. And so, and I did it under 16 hours, and so then I just rest, and I slept for 6 hours, because we get 6-hour break, and then I went back out, and I did 11 miles and finished it in 71 miles, got second place. A lot of people dropped out. So
you know, the ultra marathon is interesting to me because I got an up close and personal view of what happens physically to some of these participants, and I've seen the blisters, I've seen the cramps, I've seen, you know, one I'm not particularly sure about, but I see a certain angle that some people, their back begins to take after going onto these laps. They take a sort of an acute angle while they're walking or trying to run around. Um, are there any techniques that you can use to help with fatigue, injuries, boredom?
That's funny. The boredom part. I have 535 marathons, ultras, and I don't listen to any music. It's my time. I always tell people, I start off doing a marathon with 100 problems. By the time I'm done, 6 hours later, I've solved at least 60 of them.
No way.
It's my serenity. It's my time to pray. I meditate. I don't like to zone out if I'm doing an ultra because I'll get lost. But if it's just loops going around and around, I'll be fine.
Do you keep count or you try not to?
I use my Garmin. I like to keep track of my pace more than what mile I'm on because that kind of stresses me out. Because sometimes you're zoned out and you think you've done 10 extra miles and you only done 8. It kind of feels weird. It's like sucks. And as far as when I did, it used to happen to me when I do 100 milers. I have lower back problems and tend to walk with a lean. And last year, a friend of mine, she put out a challenge to do a headstand, a headstand every day. And it took me a month to learn how to do it. And I started doing a headstand every day, and I found out that the headstands help with the lean. I don't lean anymore.
Really?
And so last year when I did the 10-day race, I got to really use that, and I did a headstand every day, or sometimes I broke out a headstand a couple of times a day.
In between the races,
In
while
between
you're
the races.
resting?
In between, yep. And I still do them every day, every morning. I'll do a headstand. I'll be doing them here at the 10-day.
Okay.
And last year was a lot of fun because I would do it in high heels, I would do them in the mall, I would do it at the airport, and just break out a headstand.
Let's talk about a little bit about the diabetes walk. Is that something that you started, or?
That's something that I started. I lost my mom 4 years ago to diabetes complications. She had a massive stroke and passed away. And then that was in September, and then the following year, my son graduated with double masters in communications at 2 different universities.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, he's awesome. And I picked up the phone to call her because she loves RJ. And I was like, oh my God, she's done. And I said, now what can I do? What can I do to help and just spread the word that something as simple as moving your body, walking, changing your diet can help control type 2 diabetes. And I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk from Corona, where I live, to Oakland to the diabetes office. So I got in contact with my branch, diabetes branch, along with the branch in Oakland. And it took me 15 days and 525 miles. And I walked and raised some funds and brought awareness, stopped along the way, and different little companies, and talked about how walking can help control the type 2. And then the next year, I walked from Corona to Las Vegas via Death Valley. That took in over 100-degree heat. Took 10 days, and then the year after that, last year, I walked from beautiful Laguna Beach to the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. That was a lot of fun. And so this year, I decided, since I got into 31, that why don't I put out the challenge that for everyone to walk a mile or more, walk, bike, hike, swim, whatever, a mile or more a day for 52 straight days. While I'm here doing 60 a day, you can do a mile or more. You join me.
I'll join you, I promise. What do you think your mom would say for advice before you do this big, what they call the Mount Everest, right, of ultra marathons? What would she tell you?
I think she would say, just keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring a lot of people. You're motivating them to put their health, to get healthy and fit, and the easiest way to do it is just by moving your body, which is walking.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think she'll be really proud of me. I think she'll say, keep doing it.
Did you try to run in terms of preparing for ultra marathons in the beginning at all, or any type of marathon? Did you try running and then realize, you know what, I'm not gonna do that?
I don't even remember running. I just knew I didn't like it, and I just started walking, and I used to do just my neighborhood, and not even, I don't even think it was really a mile. But then one day a friend of mine asked me to do it. Back then they were calling it a walkathon, and she said, let's
That's right.
do a walkathon and raise funds, and so that's how I did my first 5K. And I remember I couldn't walk the next day, but it was something kind of magical about it. It felt good, massaging your sore muscles, and I just kind of liked the atmosphere, and all the people were really friendly, and so then I think a couple of weeks later I signed up for another 5K, and they just led to my first half marathon, and that led to the full marathon. And I think at that point I didn't like doing the full marathons as much, so I kept doing a lot of half marathons, and then finally, like I said, for my 50th birthday, I had only done 12, because back then you would only do like one marathon every 6 months, or maybe even one a year, and then you talk about it all year long. Now they're just doing back to back, and I'm doing back to back, and it's just amazing what the human body can do.
Yeah, you've definitely proved that to me through just, being able to experience your journey, and the little bit that I've seen so far. I'm coming in at the end of your journey where you're starting to excel at a high level, and I'm really, just in the short time that I've known you, I've seen your progress, and I'm proud, and I'm glad that I'm actually going to be here to witness you take on this race.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I amaze myself, if I can say that.
Yeah, you have every right to say that.
And it's so amazing. I just don't know where it comes from, but I do know I really enjoy it. And I hope I make a lot of people proud. I hope I make them feel that, yeah, this is extreme, 3,100 miles, but I hope I make them realize that they can do a marathon. Because besides, the nutrition and the training, but when I had to do the walking, 4 to 6 times a week, I did a 50K. My training was 31 miles, sometimes 35. And if you tell an average person that, I trained 30 miles, they look at you like you're crazy.
Right, because that's more than the New York City Marathon, which most people aspire to run.
Right.
Just that one race.
Yeah. And then if I tell them I'm walking it, it's even more crazy. And I stopped telling people I was doing the 3,100 because they didn't hear the 100, they only heard the 31. So I figured
that they can't even comprehend.
They can't.
I know. When I first heard it, I was like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
Because I didn't believe that it was real. But I thought that when I heard about the 6 and 10 day race, and I was like, "What is this?" And I think once I entered back into this circle of racing, something within me woke up, because I was a previous track runner as well, and it actually got me back into being more physically active again, and getting back on the track. So, and I owe that in part to you, because when I met you, that was a part of that spark that got me back out there. So that's why I really, you have my full support because of that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Not a problem. How about your nutrition? What does it take when you're doing these races to make sure that your body can hold up?
I'm finding out, I learned a lot 2 weeks ago with the heat exhaustion, that you really need to eat, and you need to hydrate, but for me, less water and more food, and then also I need electrolytes. And so one of the doctors here at the race, he was telling me just tonight that I need to really work on my electrolytes, and so he gave me some ingredients that I'm going to try, and we'll see what happens. And that's some honey and salt and lemon juice and some sodium. And so I got it all mixed up, and we'll see what happens because I do have a weak stomach, and it scares me to try anything new or even just to put anything in my body. And so when I did the race 2 weeks ago, it was a really big wake-up call for my nutrition. And one thing I love about this race is that they take very good care of us. I mean, the food is just plenty and very nutritious. And so I'm going to make sure that I eat. Just really just eat, not nibble, eat.
Is cramps a concern for races like this?
No, I don't really get muscle cramps. My legs are pretty strong. I've learned to stretch more because sometimes I used to get in my head, just get the miles done, get the miles done. But by this being 52 days, I'm learning to take care of my body much better. And so, and then you had asked me earlier about the blisters. I use this product called Rungu, and that's really been working. When I did the 10-day, well, actually I did a 6-day back in December, January, and I got one really small blister, but other than that, and that was controlled, and the Rungu controlled everything.
Is that before you're racing, or after you get a blister, or before you get a blister? During.
I actually got that one on the second day, and like I said, we controlled it. And then even at the 10-day race, I had one little tiny one on each foot, and we controlled that. And so the key to it is just when you know it's coming, you have to control it, take care of it, and just
that can take you out the race if you don't treat it. I've seen. Yeah.
My first 6-day race in Alaska, I had to take a wheelchair.
Alaska.
In Alaska.
How was that?
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I took a wheelchair because of my feet.
Wheelchair.
Because I couldn't walk on them after we finished the race, 400 miles. They were bad.
What was the weather like?
We were in a dome, so they kept it like 65 degrees. It was just perfect, but it was really hard because we didn't know if it was day or night because the lights were on all the time. But I don't think if they ever did another one there, I would do that one. That's hard. It's really hard. People were hallucinating, and
man.
Yeah, just put the lights on 24/7.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I'm a native Californian. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then when I got married, we moved to Southern California. We moved to Orange County. And,
brothers and sisters?
I have quite a few brothers and sisters. I'm one of 11, and then and my sister Cassandra, she passed away back in January. So I'm also doing this race not only for diabetes too, but for drug and alcohol. She was an alcoholic. So, and my father was too. He was a recovering alcoholic. He recovered when I was 5. So I know all about the 12-step program and a lot about addiction. And so a lot of this is, so this race is really going to be special to me. And it's got a lot of meaning, which is, again, with both parents, with diabetes. And then, I don't know about you, but just about 1 out of 3 people that I meet, or even in my own circle, family and friends, have diabetes.
Yeah, my grandmother and a few of my aunts and uncles, definitely.
And everyone knows somebody with some type of addiction problem, and so I just want to spread the word about that too. That don't. Because my sister, she lived on the streets for 20 years, and she never bothered anybody, but I always went looking for her. And so her last 2 years of her life, she came off the streets and got clean and sober, and she always asked me, Yolanda, you always came looking for me, and, why did I live on the streets? And I said, well, that's between you and God, and, and God is a forgiving person, and, but she used to call me like at 3:34 in the morning just to say, I'm proud of you and I love you. And what I want to say to people who have family members that have any type of addiction, don't not take their calls. Don't push it, because you never know when they're going to go. And it's not that I didn't take her calls, but sometimes I didn't, and now I wish that I would have, just to hear her say, because all she wanted was love, you know, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
They just want to hear your voice. So I always tell people, you know, don't be ashamed, you know, they need help,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Usually, those that are in trouble, that's all that they need.
That's all they
You
need.
know, they usually they find an outlet, and usually it's not the right one, and that's just because they're crying out for help or for care to someone that cares. So that's great that you're doing that, and you know, I'm glad to hear all of these backstories into what really makes it special, because the more I hear, the more special it's even becoming.
Yeah. And then especially with the diabetes, you know, 'cause a lot of us are, you know, I'm not, but you know, sometimes you're pre-diabetic, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if your doctor says just change the way you eat, just move your body,
Mm-hmm.
do it, because you don't want to do it after he tells you you have diabetes,
Right.
you know, or
And
whatever.
then you're
it is.
playing catch up.
Yeah, then you're
Yeah.
playing catch up, and that's really, it's just really hard.
Mhm.
And I, like I said, maybe that's where the passion comes from, the drive, that I
Mhm.
could show people through all the stuff that I do, that, you know, you could do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of pleased that I had quite a few people who signed up for the challenge.
Mhm.
And so that should be pretty fun. I hope to go live every day if I can.
That would be great.
Yeah, and just to see how they're doing.
Mhm.
'Cause you know how I'll be doing.
Yeah.
If you follow, you'll see what I'm doing. But
Mhm.
I'm just curious to see, you know, because with some people that haven't really moved their body, you know, a mile just seems like forever to
Mhm.
them. And to see that if I can pull off 60 or more a day, that'll encourage them to think, well, I just did a mile, I can do 2, I can
Mhm.
do 3. And then to know that they can do it consecutively,
Mm-hmm.
that just, I'm like, you can see
Yeah.
I'm getting excited already.
Yeah.
I just want to see how they do.
Mhm.
And I hope they do well. So.
Tell me about a time that you overcame a challenge in the race, and you were able to. You may not have thought that you were going to finish, or that you weren't going to do well, but you ended up in the end succeeding.
My 500th marathon, I chose to do a 100-miler, and it was in Las Vegas. It was actually on Valentine's Day in February, so I didn't think it was going to be too hot. It was, I think, maybe 75 degrees, but however, that sun was just beaming down. And I was trying to do what they call a sub-24. I was on pace. I had gotten to 40-something, and it hit just like that. Heat exhaustion.
Oh no.
And so I was bummed. I was like, this is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
However, since I had started off so well, and it was we had 30 hours to finish, I set out for 3 hours. I let my body recuperate, and I finished in 28 hours and 47 minutes.
Whoa.
So I still got under.
You were
I
able
didn't
to
get
recover.
I got to
Mhm.
recover, and then I was embarrassed because a lot of people were there because it was my 500,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, how could I not, you know, how did this happen to me?
Mhm.
I'm sick. Oh my God. You
Yeah.
know, and so I did pull
You
it
have to
off.
take that time out. Your health
Yeah.
is
And it
definitely
was-
more important.
It knocked me off my feet. I mean, I literally had to sit for 3 hours for it to clear up,
Mm-hmm.
and it did. And then I
Mhm.
still finished in 28, 40,
Yeah.
just under 29 hours.
Amazing. Is there any tips that you could share to prevent or to treat in the midst of a race if that happens to any other runner that might be watching this?
Only thing I could say is hydrate, but I'm not really good with hydration because my stomach is so weak I can't even drink a lot of water. But the key is to hydrate and to eat if you're doing, you know, ultras, especially 100. But once the heat exhaustion hits, I mean, you can do things to help prevent it, but once you get it, you just got to sit it out, you know. And
Are there any clear symptoms or signs that a runner could be aware of?
well, for me, I start to get a little fatigue, but then if I'm talking, I lose my voice, and I get mad. I can feel it. That's how mine comes on. It starts with the voice. It starts getting really rough and lower, and then the stomach starts going all crazy, and
and you're at full alert, and you know what's going on.
You know what's going on,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's too late to start drinking
Mhm.
a lot of water or whatever. But yeah, so it's
Mhm.
kind of one of those things. Just kind of get to know your body.
Mhm.
You know, because sometimes what works for me won't work for you.
Mhm.
But it's to really get to know your body and keep it well hydrated.
Mhm. Was there any race that you had high hopes for, or a high goal for, that you absolutely knew that you were going to conquer this, and then you didn't?
hmm One that I remember was in Arizona, and it was
Another
again,
hot place.
You
You love those.
But it was in January, and again 70 degrees, and actually I think that was the first time I got heat exhaustion, and I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
But I was really disappointed because I really wanted. They had a beautiful buckle. Because when you do 100 milers, you get buckles, and I have a whole collection of medals. And at first, I didn't want a buckle. I was just like, really, a buckle? Who wants a buckle? I mean, literally the buckle that you wear in your belt.
Mhm.
But now they're just like all colorful and just different designs. And this one had a skeleton's head, and it was about this big. And I really wanted that buckle, and got sick in
Mhm.
mile 40 and couldn't finish.
So it sounds like around 40 is usually where you'll know if you make it past the 40 hump, you're good to go.
Yeah, that's true. I have 5 DNFs, which we call did not finish, and I frame mine. I put them in a frame, and I think about what went wrong, and because to me, failures are just stepping stones to something even greater,
Mhm.
and then they're just learning tools, and so yeah, they're all been on 100 milers, and
How many medals do you have?
I have over 600
Over 600 medals.
600 medals.
How many records do you have?
And I have, I'm holding the American record female for the 10-day race, and then I have 2 Guinnesses, and yeah, those are the 3 main ones.
Mhm. So the 2 Guinnesses were the calendar year, the
Mhm,
most
those
in
are
the calendar year?
calendar year.
What about I saw that you attempted twice the daily average miles, right?
Right, yeah. Let's see, was it last year or 2017, 15? Yeah. I was doing a 6-day in Florida.
Mhm.
I was on day 340. I had to do 26.2 miles or more.
That sounds insane.
daily.
Day 340, you're already halfway, not halfway, you're
I
pretty
know.
much through the year
I know. And
consecutively.
and it rained so bad, and that's when I learned to take care of my
Uh-huh.
feet, and I had blisters really bad, and I was on the last day, and all I needed to do to complete the 26
Mm.
was 8 more miles. And so I was sitting in my tent, and I looked at my feet. I shouldn't have never took my shoes off, because once I looked at my feet, and they were all blistered and bloody, and
The psychology of it gets to you.
And then I just said, okay, God, it's up to you. If you help me put my shoes back on and let me do the 8 miles, I can continue on this journey. If not, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't put them back on,
Mm.
and it was over. So I'm not going to attempt that anymore.
Was that the second attempt?
That was the second
Oh,
attempt.
no.
Okay, the
But
first
you did-
attempt.
yeah, that was the 360.
Yeah,
That's right.
it was in 2011, and I only got to, I think it was 90 days. I just didn't have the nutrition correct, and I lost so much weight, and my Garmin broke, and I couldn't.
It was just not
it
going
just,
right.
Yeah, it just wasn't going right, and so I had to drop.
Mm-hmm.
But from 2011, I only did 90 consecutive days, and in 2015, I did 340.
Mhm.
So who knows? Maybe I'll finally do 365.
Let's get through the 3100 first, and
Yeah,
then we
let's
can
get
revisit
through
that.
it. Yeah, that's true.
What about you have a book?
Yeah,
You had a book out for a while.
Yeah, I had a book out for a while, and I'm working on book 2. That was my journey to Guinness. You could still get it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com, and I just pretty much, I wrote that in 2011, 12. I needed it for a speaking engagement, but also back then, the main question they were asking me was, how did you travel all over the country? How did you get from a Saturday race in San Francisco to, a marathon in Arizona? Who picked up your bib? How did you get there? So it was more about the logistics, and so I wrote about that. But book 2 will have more about nutrition, and then it'll also have the 3100 in there, and it'll answer a lot of questions, because the main question was people were also asking was emotionally, how do you feel? I want to know. So, and now I can tell you, emotionally what all I was going through, and all of that will be in book 2.
When is that coming?
Hopefully by the end of the year.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's already
I'm in the process.
Post-production, or?
No, well, it's almost the draft.
It's better than no draft.
Yeah, it's
I'm glad to hear
hard.
that.
Yeah, it's and so, but I want to add this 3100 and add that to it.
So you're going to be, I'm sure, journaling and...
I have already started from the training up to today.
Is that something you do a lot?
No, actually it isn't. But for this, I'm doing it. But yeah, I years ago I used to kind of journal, but now I just kind of, like when I'm walking, that's to me is not the same as journaling, but I just like to keep my thoughts and prayers and stuff, and meditate more. And,
I had another friend that does ultra marathons, and he was explaining to me about how there's different stages of these races that, some people really believe in the self-transcendence aspect of it. And he said that he had a moment where he kind of just surpassed the pain, surpassed the feeling of where he was, and he kind of felt an outer body, like as if he was just seeing what was going on from an outside perspective. And he felt, a sense of enlightenment where he felt like just free. Did you ever feel any sense like that? Or just the freedom of being out there and just... No.
But I want to.
Yeah.
That sounds
Maybe
exciting.
you'll find it now, right? It's not
so.
the first time I've heard that, actually.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing that a lot too, and but as far as the pain, my doctor has told me that I can handle. He asked me, where did you learn pain management? Because I can tolerate pain, but that's as far as I can go. I can tune out some pain, but as far as the outer body experience, and I'll be honest with you too, I've never even cried when you cross the finish line. I get jealous, like, how are you crying? I'm not crying.
Yeah, you're always smiling, that's for sure. Hurting or not, you're definitely smiling.
I look back at some of my pictures, I'm like, really, Yolanda? Smiling? No, I would love to cry. I would love to feel what other people were saying they're feeling. I just,
No.
Sorry.
No, don't say sorry. We'll come back to that, and we'll see. We'll revisit your race.
Yeah.
You'll have a lot to talk about for 52 days.
I think I probably will be crying, but it won't be out of joy. It's more like, finally did it. Done with this sucker.
Yeah, I know. Is this just what you're looking at right now, or is there a longer plan? Do you have a plan? Do you have steps in mind for what's after this for the rest of the year, or you just take it race by race?
Just race by race. I don't know how I'm going to feel after this 52 days. But I do have big plans in this race, so it's more about right now, let's see what you can do in this 52 days. There's 2 records to be broken, actually 3. You can even win it. So we'll see what happens. I've been training, the 4 months of training, I've been training really hard, and so we'll see.
If you were to look back at some of the things that you accomplished, and you could go back into the past, if you had known what it took to accomplish some of those things, do you think you would have done it, knowing what was about to come for those races?
I think think so, but I think I also would probably wanted to win it because I hate to admit this, but there's a competitive side to me.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, and I think I take that with each one of the races now, is that what I can do better, and I don't think I would change anything if I could go back. I probably would even add more because, like my one of my good friends, Larry Macon, we tied the Guinness. My first year, in 2010, it was his second Guinness in Florida. We tied it with 106, so we did it together. And then fast forward, I'm now doing multiple days in the 3100, and he's on marathon number 1900 and something.
Whoa.
He's getting ready to hit 2000. So I think.
Is that someone you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, oh, definitely. He's totally my inspiration, and but we're all on different journeys. So that's his journey to do 2,000 or more, and then mine is now just I love the multiple days now. They're very challenging, and then to be in this one, the longest certified race in the world. That even sounds scary.
It sounds very amazing, a little bit scary, and it sounds, the anticipation that I have to see what you're about to accomplish, because I have full faith in you that it's going to be something extra special just because of what's behind it and what's driving you, and what you're going to be able to draw from because of how much it means to you is what's really going to make the outcome special.
I think so too. It's the unknown, because I know what my body can do for 10 days. So we'll see what happens maybe I'll cry on day 11.
You're hoping to cry, it sounds like this race. It's like, where are those tears?
Yeah, where are the tears? I do. I just want to feel something different rather than, yay, I finished.
Well, it seems like that's what it is, right? Every race, every opportunity you get, it seems like you push yourself to do something new, to push past the next threshold, to reach the next level, to see what else you can do. And I find that interesting because you're doing it as you get older, where it seems usually people try to do it before they get older. They look at the clock and they say, I got to do this before I get to this age. But you're like, as I get older, I want to do more.
I do. It's so much more I want to do. But if you would have asked me even at 40, Yolanda, at 59, you're going to be doing this race, in multiple days, and you're not going to be sleeping, and, even get, and I would be like, no way. No. No. But, yeah, it's exciting. That part, that and I'm just blessed that I can do it. And that's what I tell people. If you got 2 legs, use them. Think about, and I would say, think about if you had the flu. I mean, just a really bad flu where you're just laying up in bed, and then you're on like day 4 and you're tired of just being sick and laying in bed. And then what do? You think about your job, you think about going to the park, you just think about taking your kids somewhere, you think about all these things that you could do, and then you tell yourself, oh, as soon as I get better, I'm going to do this. But as soon as you get better, you don't do it.
Right.
And so that's the way I'm looking at life. Every day is a gift, and it's a blessing. When I wake up in the morning, I thank you, Jesus. I'm here again. And thank you, legs. Yay!
In those moments where it gets the hardest, and as a runner, I can speak from experience where you're like, I can't keep going. I should stop. I gotta stop. Your body's telling you to stop. Your mind's telling you to stop. What keeps you going in that moment?
In that moment, I think about the finish line. I think, you're almost done. It's not going to last forever. So just keep going. Just keep going. If you have to slow down a little bit, if you have to sit down, no more than 5 minutes. Just no more than 5, because then I get too comfortable. But I just tell myself, it's almost over. And then you're going to feel bad if you didn't finish, because now you're feeling better, and then you go, I should have, could have, would have. So that's what keeps me going. Just, how you're going to feel if you don't finish. And you're almost there, it's almost over, and then you're going to look back and say, wow, did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yolanda, for
thank you.
taking the time to speak with me. I'm looking forward to your race, and I cannot wait to see what amazing things you're going to accomplish in these 52 days.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem.